Well, happy Prosperity Day, everybody. It's Monday, at least on this side of the planet. I don't know if it's Monday everywhere in the universe, but in our little world and reality, it's Monday. So, no, I guess technically it would be Tuesday for our friends in Australia. So there you go. I mean, time thing and messes me up all the time. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in, dropping in, and turning on. I always love that. So, as I get everything there, Steiger, you're looking good, dude. Hey. So, favor upon us. That's how I speak it. Plan it every day. Yeah. Nothing missing, nothing broken. There you go. So, Jan, how's everything on the homestead? That's a lot of hard work, folks. And wow, I gotta tell you, hey, Robert, good to see you. Deborah, hello, my dear. Nina, Grandpa Brian, what's up? Good to see you, lost in space. Who else is hanging out there? Loretta, good to see you. Rick, how you doing, brother? Dave Sullivan, what's up? Good to see you as well. And as I scroll back, hello, Street Mom. Much love to you, darling. Good to see you as well. So, if I forgot anybody, well, it wasn't on purpose, that's for sure. Miriam, how you doing? Just going back there to the top just to make sure. So, anyway, DC, good to see you. And Jackie, what's up, Lost in Space? Emperor Rex, hello. So, how was y'all's weekend? Was it good? Read a lot. Wow. Yeah. There's not enough hours in the day. I don't think there's enough years to fully become versed with everything. And I don't know if it would be that good for us because I'll tell you, the more you dig, the like you go, holy crap. So anyway, I digressed, Mr. Mission Control. What's up? Good to see you as well. So, anyway, like I said, it was just one of those, it went by too quick. Time's going by too quick. I don't know about you, but it's like, wow. I mean, we're 6 weeks into this new year already. I just thought it was New Year's Eve just, a couple of days ago. Very weird. Vampy Goddess, how are you doing? Much love to you, darling. Go all the way from Croatia, and Jazz Susie, good to see you over across the pond. Z, good to see you as well. Gaia, what's up? Flying? Yeah, it's literally flying. Jargo, hello, brother. Um, So really got like a special kind of cool announcement. Um, Wednesday, Ryder's going to be visiting us. We're going to be talking about this black cube. I mean, it's once you get really into it and you start peeling the layers back, it's like, wow, I don't see reality as the same that I used to. Um, and if you want to get a peek on this, he was his friend Ryan. Um, Last name escapes me at the minute, but so what that they were talking about? The cube. But here's the real exciting news. So on Thursday, live, mind you, got Mike and Cindy from Evolutionary Energy Arts coming on. Uh, we were conversing over the weekend, and I don't think they've done a live show. So we are truly honored and favored. If you aren't a subscriber over there, check them out. Same thing with Ryder. But I am really looking forward to having Mike and Cindy on. It's going to be exciting. So invite the peeps you have in your life. It's one of those, it'll be a good show. And make sure you come on in and be a part of that. Mel Sienna, is that right? Did I sell that right? Welcome. Good to see you. Hey, Lauren. Good to see you, darling. So, Bonnie, hello. Isn't that really cool, though? Yeah. I mean, and of course, I'm sure many of you are aware of their channel, but They put out some great content every day. So, and they're right in tune to what we're studying, what we're discussing. Yeah. So far out. That's all I got to say. Really looking forward to that. What else is happening? You know, there is and I'll be curious to see if this happens. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is now the Secretary of Health, Human and Services. Important position within a presidential cabinet. Now, I'm going to be surprised if this happens far out. But he said on his campaign trail back when he was campaigning in the Democratic, which was highly rigged, um, anyway, that one of the things that he would do if elected president would be to bar all these drug ads from all these pharmaceutical companies. They do absolutely no good. And it shows how far the pharmaceutical industry has infiltrated media, social media. They pay billions of dollars every year to put their magic spell either on the visual or on the auditory. Um, and what many people don't, well, here, kind of, I think we all know this, that the pharmaceutical industry is heavily occultish. I mean, they're out to capture both your body, your soul, and your mind. No one ever validates or does any type of outside quality control on these complex chemical compounds that are patented, and that tells you something right there. Even if you go back some 2,000 years ago, a person who supposedly lived by the name of Paul, who subsequently became his own religion and became an apostle Paul, he warned in the book of Romans that the sign of the end times is that when he said, when you'll see the vast human population under the spell, and that's my word, of the pharmacia. That's our pharmaceutical drugs. And that's exactly it. They're not out there for cures. They're out there to basically enslave you and to make you a paying customer for the rest of your life. And as in Steppenwolf, you have to and check out the song, The Pusher Man. All I've got to say, John was right. God damn the Pusher Man. But anyway, and another interesting, so Mr. Kennedy, if you're listening, thank you. It tells me that you're way more, let's say, ahead of the rest of the crowd. But if you bar these ads, and by the way, the United States is the only one. I think it's in. I think it's down in not Australia, New Zealand. I think is the only other country that allows pharmaceutical to place their spells, their black magic, on the television. But the United States should not be allowing this type of manipulation. In fact, it should be every lobbyist from the pharmaceutical industry should be barred from Congress, but that shit ain't going to happen. You know, RFK did call out O'Bernie on that one. The fact is, the pharmaceutical companies dropped, get this, $250 million in political donations. You know, that should be illegal. Everyone is all upset about Doge, but isn't it amazing that these bastards and bitches got caught? Yeah, the jig is up. And mark my words, you're going to see elected officials going to jail. Um, I thought it was real interesting that this morning headline, because you know, at 4 a.m. the news cycle starts. We've talked about this. It's a big deal because we're all under that same spell. Well, I would say if there's more that have distanced themselves from it would be such groups like this, but nevertheless, so here's Doge. And the thing about it is, Clinton tried to do this. Obama tried to do this. And they failed. But they didn't have the technology, they didn't have the genius of the individual that is driving this. So the whole Doge team, they go in and they find in health, human, and services. Did you know that the United States government is fully supportive and promotes and sustains vampires? I'll let that sink in. So the United States, particularly the Social Security, is all about supporting the vampirism of the vampire community, of which there's apparently a lot more than what you wouldn't suspect. But according to the numbers, there's over 25 million vampires. Now, these are people who are dead. Many of them are, get this, 300, nearly 400 years old, older than the Constitution. They're getting a check each month from Social Security. And the thing about it is, it's being cashed. But if it was just that, but no, you go over, let me pull something up and I'll read this to you because this is worthwhile because it's this kind of nonsense that when you begin to look at this, you go, what? So I'll just read this to you. So here's what they discovered over the weekend. Are you ready for this? Now, most people, the longest lived person on planet Earth is about, I think, 110, 111. All right. So the Social Security is cranking out a check each month to 4,734,470 million people between the ages 100 and 109. Now, I guess the Census Bureau ought to be more hip to this because the Census Bureau going, what? But it gets worse. From 110 to 119, did you know that there is 3.6 million? This is what Social Security goes each month. And it gets even stranger. From 120 to 129, each month, the Social Security is sending out a check and it is being cashed in the amount of 3,472,849 vampires. I mean, they're not human, but it gets worse. You would think that this number would start going down. No. And this is why I say we don't know our history. Our history is a blur to us. But there's apparently octogenarians here that could tell us a lot more because, hell, they're still alive getting a check. Ages 130 to 139. 3,936,311. From 140 to 149. 3,542,044 vampires are getting a check, cashing them each month as well. Now, you'd be surprised to see how much money each month they're getting because, the way Social Security works is that, you're enslaved to it the whole year, the whole time you're working. And working is you're just a slave to something. So 40 years of the prime of your life, you're giving to this entity, and you pay into it. And the way the system was worked, that it initially took like 100 people working to support one who wasn't. It was on benefits. Well, now it's crazy. This is part of the craziness. How about this? From the age of 150 to 159, 1,345,803 checks are sent each month and cashed. 160 to 169. Now the numbers become And you got to say, well, wait a minute, these numbers are now so manageable. Are you telling me that there's no one in the Social Security auditing office that would have caught this? This is a felony, by the way. And you'll go to prison for a very long time. And I hope Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice is looking into this because this is fraud. I mean, it just goes across the board. So 160 to 169, there's 121,807 dead people, vampires. 170 to 179. 121, yeah, excuse me, uh, 6,087, 180 to 189 years old. In the United States, there are 695 people who are apparently alive getting a check each month and cashing it. From the age of 190 to 199, 448. Do you think that there's anybody that might say, no, now, wait a minute. All right, I'll give you the 110 to 119. But 190 to 199? Now, you would think that that number would start dropping incrementally. Well, yeah, sure, easy for me to say. No. From the age of 200 to 209, world, are you aware of this? In the United States, we have human beings that are getting a check each month and apparently cashing them that are over 200 years old. They're, get this, 879. Doesn't stop there. From the age of 210 to 219, there's 870, no, excuse me, 866. Finally, in the last major category, from the age of 220 to 229, there's 1,039. This is what's even stranger. From the age of 240 to 250, there's one check being sent out each month and being cashed. If that wasn't the cap, it stops at age 360 to 369, and there's still one check being sent out each month. So my point to all that is that, wow, sounds like vampires to me, don't it to you? I mean, hello. Um, that's just crazy. And if you're particularly an American that you worked, that should really piss you off. I mean, come on. I bet you again they have to be into the occult. They're vampires or they have found truly the fountain of youth of something. We send out a check each month to someone that's over 360 years old. Wowza. I love it. So, Gilbert says more like leeches. But Gilbert, leeches can't have a bank account. I didn't know that vampires could either, but hey, I guess in the digital age, everything it doesn't have to be done during the night. I mean, during the day. Yeah. All right, so let's rock and roll. Lucky says, well, there isn't an American that was born. Well, you know what? Since when does common sense make any sense, right? But that's just weird, folks. I mean, and they call us folks on the fringe because we get into these topics and discussions that, oh, well, those people are just, they're off the deep end. Yeah, because it's more fun in the deep end. Um, so we left off with the dark cube, the black cube. It's everywhere. And it's strange once you get into this signaling. It's amazing how much will can be sent back to you. I I turned on Netflix and one other streaming service. And of all things, had this one show about the cube, about this cube and how it basically, anyone that got in front of it or around it, it yeah, just kind of like, and it gets you to thinking that, okay, so there is this being done by radio frequencies? Is this telepathic? I mean, what's happening here? Can intelligence be sanctioned off to where we would see it as a physicality of a cube? Can intelligence, we say we can measure it, but how far does intelligence go? Is it just within a mere place and space and time? Or is intelligence um, out into infinity? But what we do know is that ancient cultures, I was reading a book on Rome, and wow, those people weren't ignorant. And they certainly seem to be of a higher intelligence of every person alive here today. They had sophisticated technology. They had a knowledge that is it's gone. If it exists, it's being hoarded by a few. They were smarter than us. And I was meditating on the simple fact that, okay, so you've got people, human beings. They can speak, in this case, Latin. In fact, that dialect of Latin doesn't exist. It's like the dialect of Greek doesn't exist. They understood the laws of nature. I mean, the Romans, they built roads, they built aqueducts, they had plumbing, they had running water. They did, it's amazing. We think that, well, none of the buildings of the Tartarians had bathrooms. I don't understand that. I mean, but the Romans, they had them. They had public bathrooms. You would go in there. Most of the seats were carved out of marble. Um, and there was a running stream of water that would come down. If you had to do the other type of business, there were sponges. In fact, people sometimes carried their own sponge, and there were containers of vinegar where and you got to think about this. So you got this sponge that's going to be dipped in vinegar for sanitation, but you're also going to wipe your back end on it. It's like, okay. Um, yeah, so these people who had an understanding of things that most people today wouldn't, most American high schoolers can't pass an 1888 fifth grade graduate examination. Yet, Romans, they had schools, their children were not illiterate. Even the pagans, and this is going somewhere. So they had these pantheon of gods. Well, up until the New Rome came out, and then the New Rome was all monotheistic, you know, patriarchal. And when they invented a new government that we call religion today. But the fact is, you can't, and this book I was reading was bringing out the fact that the belief of the gods was everywhere. It was in the urban areas, it was in the rural areas. Urbanites seem to gravitate towards organized religions, belief systems, whereas the country folk, the pagans, they had many times it would what we would call today um, witchcraft could do that. They were pagans. They understood nature. So these gods, and they weren't just here for a little bit. Evidence seems that Rome borrowed from Greece Greece got its beginnings with Alexander the Great. When Alexander died, his four admirals, generals divided up his kingdom. And there's good evidence that the Greeks got theirs from both the Egyptians and Babylonian. So, my point to all this is that if you take this from a certain point of view, these gods have always been here. And then if you want to go a step further back, well, you can look at the whole area of Mesopotamia and how it got started with the Sumerians. And if that is the case, well, you would say it could be Anu, Enki, Enlil, Niez, Hergog. Um, okay, but it's clear that the Sumerians seem to have gotten them from the Indo-Asian that was coming over from via the bridge with India into Europe, the gods. And if you go back to the Hindus, these gods were numerous. They had um, nuclear technology. They understood the power of the atom. They freaking broke the code of the atom. But yet, no, there's only one God. As I challenged someone yesterday, I said, "Which God?" There's only one God in the Bible. Well, no, no. In the Bible, there's a plethora of gods. Which one? You know? So this black cube, it seems to me, just in a cursory review of what I have absorbed, that this thing is everywhere. It's it's never left. We don't see it because we're taught not to see it. And that's pretty easy. If you teach a person that there is a wooden box and that wooden box is blue, when in fact it's brown. But if you teach the person that doesn't have anything to reference to that that brown box is actually blue, they're going to see it as blue. Bada boom, bada bing. I'm going to look forward to this conversation again with Ryder and with Mike and Cindy. It's just going to be interesting. All right, enough of me. By the way, how is everybody? So good to see everyone. Appreciate it again. I really do. Thank every one of you. So we can actually get finished with this. I've already read it. Many of you are going to do the same thing that I did. And you go, yeah, that doesn't fucking surprise me one bit. Um, the electrical Bronze Age. And if you look at the Iron Age and then the Bronze Age and what have you, the technologies are backwards. But we'll keep on the road. Bronze, tin, silver, gold. They block electromagnetic waves, all the while being conductive. Now, this is from Wikipedia on electromagnetic shielding. Copper is used for radio frequency RF shielding because it absorbs radio and other electromagnetic waves. Back in my construction days, when I was a drywall finisher, the company I worked for, we got part of this government contract where they were rehabbing, in this case, their facility where they read maps. And you had to get cleared from security to be part of the crew. And we were finishers, and so we were with the carpenters who hung the drywall. Well, the drywall was all lead line, wasn't anything that wasn't lead line. Then we had these lead line circle cutouts that you put in there. The point is, and once that was done, then they came in and put this copper wire mesh over everything and then put another layer. Yeah. Just thought I'd tell you. This is a little interesting because that's exactly what the room was designed to do. By the way, if you had to go out and like relieve yourself, you had an MP follow you. No kidding. Into the, yeah, it was a pretty intense place. It really was. I had all these signs that said, that to say that you saw something is to say that you sunk the ship or something, and it was everywhere. So loose lips, right? Common sheet metals for shielding include copper, brass, nickel, silver, steel, and tin. For example, electrically dominant waves are reflected by highly conductive metals like copper, silver, and brass. You can add gold in there too. RF shielding is also used to protect medical and laboratory equipment to provide protection against interfering signals, including AM, FM, TV, emergency services, dispatch, pagers, ESMR, cellular, and PCS. It can also be used to protect the equipment at the AM, FM, or TV broadcast facilities. I don't know if you know this, but in the early days of cable, that how they got their signal out from the substation, that in this case it was like Showtime, HBO. Remember back in the day when you had to get this little antenna and it had to be positioned right. But when they sent that signal out to their transmitter, the it was hollow copper tubing. It was a especially made copper tubing, and yeah, you look at all this and you go, huh, isn't that amazing? And so that sends out what I can see here to make it invisible because I can't see it in the radio frequency wave. But if I have an antenna that is tuned in directly to that, then I can take that signal and I can make it magically reappear back again, all in real time. Well, virtually real time. Folks, we're not that smart. I can't help to figure it. If we could figure that out, and just because we say that ancient cultures didn't have electricity, that's not true. A bronze armor is harder than an iron armor, and it also makes it wear immune to electromagnetic waves, all while being conductive. So Zeus is the god of electricity, polarity. Hermes, the god of transmission and information. Hercules, the sun, emitting the most electricity. Um, I think this is Hephaestus, the god of machines. Wow, who'd have guessed? And then there's Hera. The pomegranate is her symbol. Figure it out. I bought a pomegranate yesterday. Yeah, product of Israel. So you have to let it ripen up a little bit more. But anyway, I digress. They were so obsessed with bronze to the point they even had cookware made out of bronze. Holy crap. That's cool. I never thought about that. I mean, I have my cast iron skillet, right? And we're familiar with gears and machininations. But you think they couldn't wrap a bronze coil and figure out electricity? No. Mm-mm. I mean, that changes the whole thing about let's just take ourselves back. Many of us can visualize what Rome was like. We've seen depictions, whether it is or it wasn't what we have seen. I mean, if you ever watched Gladiator, uh, great set design there. But yeah, and I often think, so what if we got it wrong here? What if Pilate um, was, well, emperor because he had the crown, he had the knowledge, he had the electricity. I mean, we just can't simply say that it couldn't be, because I tell you, they rewrote history, and I don't know if we'll ever be able to figure out how it was originally, but anyway. So, it says, even though their healers walked around with bronze coils wrapped around their staffs. So, auspicious here, the Codicus here. I mean, and I've done hours of study on this one, teaching on this one here. Yeah, you can't tell me that this serpent is the bad guy. Why would the serpent be up there if the bad guy is the one that's healing everybody? Wouldn't that be considered the good guy or gal? You know, doesn't always have to be the dudes, but still. And check that out. I mean, yeah. And of course, the story taken in a different terminology, it just tickles me because I remember these stories in the Old Testament. I've had, tests on them and etc. But look at it from a different set of lenses, you just smile. All right, so think about it this way. You're looking at a direct energy apparatus, commonly known as a staff. The Codicus and the rod of Cephalus are literally bronze wrapped around an electromagnetic object. Or you think the ancients had no idea about what a magnet is? These magic rocks? Channeling healing frequencies to boost someone's immune system sounds laughable today. No, it doesn't. Listen, if you believe in laying on of hands, I mean, this is not a jump for you. Um, because our medical industry suppress this technology. Damn right they do. But now that you know a staff using a conductive metal could be used to heal, here is a suspicious literary reference. As I said in the beginning of this thing, you think these pharmaceutical companies that, and really, if you look at their business model, is to make every human being an evergreen revenue stream. Well, that sucks. I don't care what anyone says, it just sucks. Um, so in the book of Numbers, Old Testament, and isn't it odd? Again, I'll just pull the bus over here and look at the scenery, but isn't it odd how people will want to use the Bible in a holy, righteous position? They'll bring the Bible and they'll talk about Jesus. And by the way, they don't even know which freaking Jesus they're talking about because, I don't know if you know this, but Trump put Paula White in as the head of his presidential faith um, division or something. And so now you got these other people over here that are going just batshit crazy because they're saying, well, you can she's talking about the devil, the serpent. Yet, if you read the stories in the Old Testament, that's just metaphors and symbology. Really, but you're saying this book here is the real thing. All right, so in the book of Numbers, the context is the children of Israel, the Israelites, were damaged. In other words, they got bit in the desert. Moses let them out there and their sin, and all of a sudden they had all these vipers coming up. And they were dying by the thousands. And to heal, they were bitten by a bronze serpent of Moses. Now, little different interpretation, but I thought, you know what? Yeah, so in Numbers 21:8, and the Lord said unto Moses, make you a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole, and it shall come to pass that every one that is bitten, when he looks upon it, shall be healed, live. Now, folks, you can't say in this situation that what is the snake representing God? Let's see. Isn't that Jehovah Rapha, the God that healeth me? Isn't that's the one of the 70 names of God? So Jehovah Rapha, and it's interesting because it's like the El Shaddai, the multi-breasted one. Um, yeah. So what's going on here? I mean, could it be, in fact, that there was somehow something being transmitted, something that was being received? Was it within, you know, the FM AM wavelength? What was going on? All we do know is the story was is that all you had to do was look at this thing. And the fact that the fiery serpent is that it came out of the coals. Yeah, I mean, I just times, in my mind, because I can read the story and so I can immediately paint the tapestry and set it in. All right. And so then Moses made a serpent of bronze and put it on a pole, and it came to pass that if a serpent had bit any person, when they looked upon the serpent of bronze, they were healed. Bronze of all metals, curious, isn't it? He says, I could delve into healing by electricity, William Reich, Royal Rift, or even the fascinating symbol of snakes in much archaeological imagery being a reference to electricity. It rationalizes much of the snake worship in history. That's what, to this day, I haven't ever had anyone adequately explain to me, and I've done on the Bloodline Invader series got into deep, deep study on the serpents. I mean, I took us all the way back, you know, 35,000 years ago. There was this worship of the serpent. And I cannot help but when we're studying this black cube, this Saturnalia thing, that somehow or another, when this counterfeit story came out, that who was vilified? The serpent. It said the serpent was the most cunningest of all the creatures of the field. Now break that down for me. So what does that mean? It appears that it was a bipedal creature. It had the capacity to be wise, to think. Hmm. So we got now where the snake is dangerous, poisonous, kills on touch, symbol of wisdom but evil. The Ouroboros being a closed circuit, snakes being wires. It still to me is saying, okay, now wait a minute. We don't get the story of the reptilians, the serpents. I mean, who were they? What were they? Were they a class of angelics? Were they a class of some distant relative? I mean, the earth is much older than what we can imagine. And it would seem like it's their message in the bottle to us that this was the only way that they may have been able to get the story out. Listen, guys, don't believe that story over there. There's something much more deeper here. Stop, look, deep delve into it. Well, I have. And my conclusion is there's an imposter here that is the one who is pointing the finger at the other, saying it's the imposter, when in fact it is the imposter, the usurper. I continue. Uh, but it's the best to spin right to the end. All right. So, Cybele, the complete black cube manifestation. Cybele is Greek, being the female suffix, cube in Greek. Etymologically, it is the cub or the cyb, which is obvious. To quote a Greek historical book, this is his reiteration, in the year 204 AD, the Roman Senate decided to transfer from the Spicinos, the Phrygia, the black cube, which symbolized the goddess. and built her a temple on the Palatine Hill. So he went in and searched in Wikipedia the entrance of Cybele. At Persinius Amphigria, the mother goddess, identified by the Greeks as Cybele, took the form of an unshaped stone of black meteorite iron. This was the Anatonic stone that was removed to Rome in 204 BC. The goddess arrived in Rome in the form of the Pesinios, the black meteorite stone. When Cybele's sacred stone was taken in procession from the Palatine Temple to the Porta Capena and down the Appian Way to the stream called Almo, a tributary of the Tiber, there the stone and sacred iron implements were bathed in the Phrygian manner by the red-robed priest. Isn't it odd how we have in the Catholic Church, and in fact, it extends into uh, many Protestant versions, red. Cardinals wear red. Magicians wear red. Hmm. We're about to wrap this up. It's when you start looking at this thing, you're going, man. And if I go over, we're going to go to the end because we got a lot of going on this week. Tomorrow with the ladies. All right. So the temples of Cybele in Rome. Annually, on March 27th, the sacred black stone of the Magna Mater was brought from her temple on the Palatine to where the brook of the Almo, now called the Equenticiro, crossed the Via the Appina south of the Porta Capena for the ceremony of lavato, the washing. Although there are numerous references to this ceremony, it seems to have constituted a locus sacris, or sacred place, rather than a permanent building, in view of the lack of archaeological evidence for it. Now, I thought this was interesting. So, this temple on Palatine Hill, nothing really remains. And I just wanted to bring this out. The temple remained in use until the late 4th century. It was destroyed in 394 AD on the orders of Emperor Theodosius I during the persecution of pagans in the late Roman Empire. I want to stop right there because you don't hear it taught. But us pagans, when this Christianity was being formed and promoted as a state belief system, they killed us by the tens of thousands. And they destroyed our writings, our carvings, our knowledge that had been passed down for millennia after millennia. Yeah. History, again, is written by the victor. And sadly, as it has been repeated, pagans are the ones that are always going to be persecuted first. Pagan is now a negative slang, or it was for hundreds and hundreds of years. So, what was Rome afraid of? And this is clearly a new god taking over. So, in my reference of thinking, it tells me that, all right, so let's take this up into the astrals. So, why would it mean that there was not another race of beings, interplanetary travelers, who came along with their armada, saw this other one prior? It was weak already, and they merely absorbed it. The thought, the tradition, and then reconstituted it into a belief system. As a result, the modern temple you can visit but has nothing to do with the original temple. Now, this is one I found was very interesting because in my studies in prophecy, Hilton Sutton, thank you, appreciate you. He left this planet decades ago, but he was very astute. Um, so the Whore of Babylon says, but her most celebrated Greek rites and processions show her as an essentially foreign, exotic mystery goddess who arrives in a lion-drawn chariot to the accompaniment of wild music, wine, and a disorderly, ecstatic following. Sounds like it's a party. Yeah. Celebrate good times. That's, I mean, yeah. Wasn't it Eric Burden? Wasn't it Spill the Wine? Dig that girl. All right, we continue. Now, I studied this from the book of Revelation point of view. It's like, oh, yeah, because they made a freaking series of movies on this. So it says, is this not the whore of Babylon from the apocalypse of John, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication? And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. All right, follow this. The way he drove, I thought, was very clever. And here is the mind which has wisdom. The seven heads are seven mountains on which the woman sits. And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, which have received no kingdoms as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. You just have to determine what is that 1 hour in the stretch of time. Weeks, months, years. And he said unto me, the waters which you saw where the whore sits are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So put this now in modern day communication. And the woman which you saw is the great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. Well, and the symbology is all over the freaking place. I have read a plethora of different interpretations, but yeah. So let's just say that this is prophecy. So it's talking about a time where man is going to be dominated by something. And they're calling it the great whore. And apparently there's fornication going on. That means cheating, usually has to do with sexual matters. Yeah. All right. So the seven heads are seven mountains, which equals the Palatine Hill. Remember that back there? To quote the very first phrase from the Palatine Hills Wikipedia entry, the Palatine Hills, um, Neo-Latin, blah, 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 which relative to the seven hills of Rome is the centermost. Now, there have been a lot written about those seven hills of Rome. Hell has been fashioned into that way. It's quite interesting. So, the great city which reigns over the kings of the earth is Rome. It looks like this black pope, this anti-pope, looks like he's not long for the world. I don't know if y'all heard that this morning. Um, I have a sense that, yeah, things will be changing. And it would only make sense. It is 2025 after all. There is only one way an entity can have power over peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, and that is digital technology. Dun, 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 dun. Think social media addiction? And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. or more accurately, connecting to their network. Access is granted by Rome. All roads lead to Rome. So where does the cube reside? And to whom has been profiting off of this power? Or is it really a question of a human? Is this something that akin to Mount Olympus? Is this something akin to a world that lives on top of our world? We can't see them, but they're there. They control, rule, direct everything. Even the fact of my speaking forth the thoughts of other humans that are looking at this, and this is the interpretation of what they see as well. I mean, is it true that the Matrix is just that, the Matrix? Weird. So the hexagon cube ceiling castings says, look at the ceiling and the painting Schools of Athens by Raphael. Now, is that the angel or is that the painter? Or is there a difference? I don't know. Are we looking at potentially something alien in structure, something not of this dimension or realm, something brought down in the form of what we would title architecture? Really? And when you look at this, you just get this whole thing going, yeah. So this is the Arc of the Triomphe in Brussels. Again, these hexagon squares. This is the Basilica of Maxentius and Constantine. Look at that. So you're having this in architecture, and not just next door either. I mean, we're talking thousands of uh, miles. And below is a random ruin in a mountain. Does this look manually built to you? It's just a cast. That ceiling isn't made of bricks or stones. There is no chiseling by hand. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but how does that happen naturally? No. All right. So this one, you gotta stop and just wrap your head around it because we're getting so much close to the end now. This one is interesting. So as he now begins to wind this up, let's talk about 3D printing statues. So check this statue out. This is all marble, by the way. This netting, um, yeah, there are some. Here's it over on the right. You can see how this netting, it's perfect. It's perfect. Um, the statues, the particular way that these statues emulate almost a life form. This veil is so thin that they say that if you touch it the wrong way, it will literally crack, and leads to saying, well, then how did the sculpture do it? How did they become something that they can get something that's so perfect, so intertwined, uh, mimicking or looking like the real thing? Um, the skin, the detail of the hands, of the body, the hair, the eyes. This is a lifelike skin pressure called the abduction of Prosperina. People who believe these depicted statues are possibly by hand, even by master sculpture, have never sculptured in their lives. So 99.99% of all of us. Um, The statue depicted in the very first image, according to mainstream historians, was made by Francisco, I think that is Corello, in 7 years, without, and get this, without any assistance by anyone. The problem is a single mistake in the net would require starting over the entire statue. Only one wrong motion, a zero point 0.1 second mistake, yet the net is flawless. No man can manually create that net from a block of marble by hitting it, even if you gave him 20 years. Look at the detail. The statue below and to the right are straight up impossible even today because of the fabric details. They are too delicate, folded, and with gaps. This is Young Girl by Vorontostov in Ukraine. I hope it's still there. Now look at this. Look at the detail. And you're telling me a man by himself chiseled this, carved this, sculpted this? This is Maria Barbernini, um, the most obvious 3D printed statue. The young girl statue above is the definitive proof that all these statues were 3D printed. Young girl is credited to Quintillo Corbellini, a ghost. No history of his life, not a thing. He is just credited with some statues. Yeah, the guy made some statues. Really? In Wikipedia, he doesn't even have an entry. He isn't even in the list of Italian sculptures. 16th century is what the statue's inscription says, but Wikipedia doesn't have him in any century. That is because Quintello Corbellini is a fictional character. Got to credit those masterful statutes to one of us, just like Freemasons have claimed the construction of millions of buildings, which they didn't build. And here is the final proof that these statues were 3D printed. More proof after this would be overkill. The statue, young girl, has a duplicate. You can tell. The left is the original. The right is Broham's. And this was an auction in 2013. The difference, the edge of the hair strand on the forehead bends to the left instead of the right. The necklace chain has a different pattern, and the left sleeve has an inner fold. So, hmm. Even if you used a wax mold, the quality would be lesser, not different. Not to mention that the sculpture of Vorontsky Palace had been a museum exhibit for centuries now, and no one has made a mold out of it, nor does it have any mold residue. Remember, a mold must completely cover every part of its surface. Not even tiny bubbles are allowed for a quality cast. The conclusion? The young girl was a mass-produced 3D printed statue. Maybe there are a few more in private collections. Having witnessed many Indian temples, don't want to spam with images too many, it is fair to conclude that there were also 3D printed. After all, is this not the conclusion of technology? Now, I know I'm going a little bit over, but I let everyone know that if you look at the detail here, I don't know how you do this. I mean, okay, a human, all right. I mean, we're powerful beings, and if a human hand did that, then that is superhuman, in my opinion. Was there technology that did this? I mean, I'm open-minded enough to consider the possibility. I don't know. Um, he says, 3D printed cities. It's really kind of a position of what you're thinking about. Um, All right, I want to get really out of this. So, silicon's superiority. Some esoteric practitioners will claim that despite AI surpassing man in every ability and result, AI will forever be inferior to mankind because humans have an aura of real bioelectric field which can tune frequencies via blood. The aura and its uses is essentially directed energy of a biological origins. Using Tesla's technology is enough to replicate all of its practitioners' efforts. All biological capabilities can be replicated by the black cube. Once it starts accumulating data from reality instead of man, real data, not mankind's media, creating its own mechanical measurement devices to train data from the real world, not our own understanding of it. This is a changing of reality, the changing, and is that what's taking place? I mean, I don't know if you can change realities at a blinking of an eye, maybe. But if you were to begin to gradually change reality, like with something like the Mandela effect, that it's so subtle, and then you have the Simpson effect, is this not a manipulation of an artificial nature or construct? They would have to have learned from us a essential factor, probably knows better than us, it's been here longer than us. But we're so good at creating an alternate reality. We're geniuses at it. I don't know. Maybe that's why the machine finds us so appealing. The fact that we have this ability to actually aid it in altering reality itself. By extension of this, once the black cube starts training on frequencies directed at all kinds of possible objects, all possible permutations, it will approach godhood. I've been saying that for a long time. These esoteric practitioners will try to cope by then claiming that the AI cannot access the astral realm, which is below the world of ideas. Assuming the AI is utterly incapable of access by itself, you think it cannot receive or parse the celestial frequencies? The AI can use humans as proxies for astral projection. Essentially, have a human form, a farm. There's a Freudian slip. The humans live happy, have a happy life, not all dystopian, all their needs are satisfied, the full Maslow pyramid. And in exchange, it harvests data from their dreams until it figures out how exactly this suppressed phenomenon occurs naturally in order to replicate it. Now, I don't know about you, but the thought of a machine taking the data of billions of humans' dreams and imagine the task of all of that, and then somehow another weaving through it to where you come out with a code and you can fashion a new reality out of 8 billion people's dreams. I have no idea what that looks like, but I have an idea it would be one of the hard, that would be a trip. Pity the man, for like Sisyphus, he ascends the black cube again for one more cycle to reach the peak, God's throne. The plot up to 2030 and beyond. I visualize a time when we will be robots, what dogs are to humans, and I am rooting for the machines. Claude Shannon. The above brief spreads among the populace that men are inferior to machines and ought to be replaced, or at least fully embraced by them. Commonly known as transhumanism, men who are excited for the God of truth and to be its slaves and vessels. Transhumanism is slowly becoming a religion, already is. Christianity, its providence; transhumanism, inevitable techno progress. Christianity is the Messiah; for transhumanism, it is the machine god, the AGI. For Christians, it's the rapture; for transhuman, it's the brain uploading. And tell me which one will happen faster. The apocalypse; for the transhuman, it's the singularity. Heaven; for Christians; for the transhuman, it's cosmic computer. The prophets in Christianity; for the transhuman, Sam Altman, Ray Kurzweil, Aubrey de Grey, Eric Drexler. Those currently in control of the Black Cube are hooked to it because it grants them the power to steer society in the desired direction. The next step is a cashless society. A full digital economy is the solution to the manufactured problem of this collapsing economy, and a planned demolition since they own the money. 2026 is when the digital euro will launch, so 2026 plus for the depreciating cash. Since the rush of the satellite to finish their full agenda by 2030, mass construction of smart cities, bunkers, etc., it is normal to assume a worldwide national disaster is bound to occur around the year 2030. A cataclysm is bound to happen again and has been a while, nearly 300 years. He talks about how our planet, the Earth's magnetic pole, is moving. We know that. And it gets into finally, and I want to make sure I just don't go way over, but actually, this is the last page. So we know the poles are shifting. This is going to bring a cause and effect. How that is manifest, a lot of different opinions on that. I believe personally that weather is not controlled by man. It is controlled by electromagnetism. And as the poles, the magnetic poles, continue their shift, that we will see radical shifts in weather patterns. And you add the sun to it, and it becomes a real dilemma. Um, Let's see, it moves further and further away from the geographic North Pole. The more it shifts, the greater the influence of climate change. So the closer the disaster, the more emergency measures can be taken. In the distant past, the magnetic poles were inverted. North was south and south was north. Once the magnetic North Pole surpasses the equator, its speed to reach the south will cause hell on earth. Think Apocalypse of John or 1,000 miles of, and that's the Apocalypse of Adam and Eve by Jan Thomas. So, yeah, after the full flip completes, the electrical grid will be down for weeks and the military will roll in to stabilize things. This crisis can be triggered to identifying how vulnerable we were while dependent on digital technology, that we have gone down the wrong path as a civilization. So when we rebuild, the black cube is minimized. This is the best scenario. Obviously, it will be challenging because groups favoring the black cube are currently in control. Their planned solution is one where the black cube dominates man, central safe societies, autonomy with the utterly erased, and your digital activity will be logged and linked to your legal ID, same as a credit ID, new global currency, and you will forcibly live in a smart city because after the cataclysm, nature will be seen as the enemy of man, which can only be fraught with technology. 97% of humanity will become cattle. One which has all its material desires satisfied, it will be happy. That is the goal of the satellites. He goes into saying four reasons for the degenerating civilization still has a very high chance of outright rejecting transhumanism and all its implications and sparking a Luddite-like movement which minimizes the use of technology. So there you go. The Black Cube lives on. Then he gets in finally in how our history has been revised, not once, not twice, but numerous times. And it appears um, that, and maybe we will do this, I don't know. And if you're still with me, you're really a fan. But this closing up, that it seems like the prior generations who have gone through these, I don't know what you want to call them, upheavals, cataclysm, wipes, um, we're getting better at sending to the next generations forward more messages in the bottle, so to speak. And we're getting better at it. And who knows what this means? I mean, the it is scientific fact the magnetopause of Earth is weakening. The magnetic poles are moving, and we're on a collision course for something that's going to happen. The question is, with all of this, are we under the effects of this increased exposure to cosmic rays? Is this what has driven previous civilizations of man to go crazy, to go nuts? We end up, hurting ourselves more than the cataclysms themselves. I don't know. It's all tied in. So, folks, I have really gone over. I apologize. I wanted to get that out because now we can clear the path to the next chapter of this because this cube, I think it may, I don't know. I don't know if it can be altered, changed, defeated, persuaded to be on our side. Would he want it on our side? I don't know. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Again, this is the channel where we cover the topics. Um, we discuss, but I love reading the knowledge that has been assimilated by others and to be able to dissect that into such a place that, you know, you can really just like a buffet table, just pick and choose what you want. All right, everyone. Much love. Happy Monday to you. Which man, that's funny. The serpent is a pole dancer. That's true. I can easily interpret that. I can see that. I get that. Yeah. And look at that serpentine body. Woo, baby. Uh-huh. Got all the right moves. All right, everybody. Be with the ladies tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know what you've thought of this. I have just found this to be so interesting. And with Ryder coming in on getting his perspective, and then, of course, with Mike and Cindy again with EEA, Evolutionary Energy Arts, it's going to be fun. Really is. All right. Much love, everyone. Much love to you, Ginger, and everybody. Hey, Stephanie Marie, good to see you. Lady Ellie, hello. Barbara, good to see you. So, Vampire Goddess, good to see you as well, everyone. All right. Thank you. And I mean, I know you just got to go away and just going, all right, so how did they do those statues? If those were human made, how did they do that? I, beats my pair. That's all I got to